we're going to talk about whispers and screams of the mind. Whispers and screams of the mind. So I was thinking that, oftentimes we notice that the mind is doing different things to us. Well, we notice because we're devoted. Many people, their mind is doing things, but they don't really realize that it's the mind. Most people think, at least subconsciously, consciously, and maybe even consciously, I am my body, so therefore I am my mind. And so whatever my mind is thinking, that's me. That's me thinking. So let's analyze that. Our mind actually is always reaching out to us. It's always trying to contact, and what is it generally trying to do? Your mind is practically always trying to influence you. Sometimes our mind is simply whispering. It's like, hey, I'm a little thirsty. Hey, I'd like something sweet to eat. I'm getting a little bit of an appetite, just whispers. I'd like some enjoyment. I'd like to do this. I'd like to do that. And sometimes the mind is just screaming. It's just screaming at us. I want a hot fudge sundae. I want to enjoy. It's just like when you're on a diet, trying to lose weight or trying to stay away from sweets because of diabetes or something. Mind is always whispering. Boy, I'd like a nice sweet. I'd like a gulab jamun. And you're like, yeah, no, that's it. And then sometimes if you're around somebody eating some nice sweets, your mind starts to scream at you. I really want one. So the mind is screaming sometimes and whispering always. So one thing is for sure, the mind is always seeking to control. And unless it's being controlled, it will control you. If you give over to the mind is going to say, I want to do this or I want to do that. Once the mind is properly trained, then you can kind of let the mind go. See, you can let it will become, instead of a nuisance and something that's always trying to trip you up. Even let's use that example of like being on a diet. Before you get the mind properly trained, it's wanting. And sometimes it's screaming, I want some sweets, I want this, I want that. After you control it for a while, you'll find the mind will be rejecting things that are not good for you. See, your eyes will focus on some gulab jamuns, and the mind will say, that's really not something we should have right now. Maybe at another time, or maybe a little tiny bit, but not right, not so much. So we have to always be careful where the mind is taking us. But it comes to a point where the mind gets so nicely trained that it becomes a really good asset. It's like having a friend with you that's always giving you proper advice, unless it's properly trained. If you don't get it properly trained, it's like having an associate with you that's always giving you bad advice. I don't know if many of us have had friends, like in school, I remember I had some friends that always had nonsense ideas. Let's go do this or do that nonsense or something naughty or whatever. They were always suggesting. So your mind can go from something that's trying to trip you up and often very successful to something that will bring you along, a very good friend. And if you get the mind properly trained, it becomes such a good friend that you can depend on it. So that's where we are today. We're going to be reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6. We're going to start with verse 5. We're going to do verse 5, 6, and 7. Please stop me at any time with questions or comments. Chapter 6, verse 5, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Udarad Atmanatmanam, Atmanam Avasadayet. Sorry, I can't see very well. Atmaiva hi Atmano Bandhur, Atmaiva Vipra Atmana. Translation: one must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So, notice that Krishna is saying here, one must deliver himself with the help of his mind. So, and not degrade himself. So, if my mind is working against me, it's like sometimes the mind may be encouraging you to do some nonsense. For many people, the mind is saying, I'd like some intoxication. So if I listen to that part of my mind, I will end up degrading myself. You know, the mind may be saying it's lunch hour, let's go have some liquor. Nobody will ever know. Go back to the office, we'll feel better, and no one will be the wiser. So that's degrading ourselves. On the other hand, the mind might be telling you, gee whiz, it's lunchtime, let's eat a quick lunch and go chant a few rounds. Maybe read from Bhagavad Gita. So that's a friendly mind. That mind, now the mind may nag you a little bit to do good or to do bad. It may nag you to go do some intoxication, or the mind may nag you to read a little bit of Bhagavad Gita when you get some chance on a break at work or lunch hour or whatever. As soon as you get some spare time, if the mind is properly trained, it's going to want to go drink some nectar from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So Prabhupada says in the purport, the word Atma denotes body, mind, and soul, depending upon different circumstances. In the yoga system, the mind and the conditioned soul are especially important. Since the mind is the central point of yoga practice, Atma refers to the mind. This is very interesting. Prabhupada points this out. This flies in the face of modern day yoga. The mind is since the mind is the central point of yoga practice, Atma refers to the mind. We don't see much of that. I don't think very much at all of putting the mind in the central point of modern day yoga. Basically, there may be some quiet meditation. Maybe sometimes the yoga class comes together and they chant Om together. Or you may do some private meditation, silent meditation, and then go to yoga, or do that after you go to yoga. Basically, yoga is for the body. So they've lost track of that. They don't even understand that the purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind. That's it. Now, we want to get the body physically shaped up, because once the body's necessities are met and it's at ease, it's either at ease or it's diseased. So it's at ease. You get the body at ease by making it healthy, stretching and doing yoga postures. Then you can move on to the mind. So this is very important. Hare Krishna, Sri Devi.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Please for joining late.
So good to see you. It seems like it's been a long time.
Yes, Prabhu, it has been a long time. Thank you so much for coming back and giving us all your mercy.
It's my pleasure. I have no mercy to give, but Prabhupada drowned me in an ocean, so I'm sharing with you his.
Haribol.
If you're looking to me for mercy, just me, I'm sorry. My pockets are empty.
I'm
But I
thankful
have,
for every
I have,
Vaishnav's mercy. I'm thankful for every Vaishnav's mercy.
well, I have plenty of Prabhupada's mercy. He just keeps throwing it on me, so I have to share it.
Haribol. Thank you, Prabhu.
That's my attempt, and I'm not even very good at that. So Prabhupada continues in the purport. The purpose of Mataji, we're talking about Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, verse 5, 6, and 7. Verse 5, one must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. Mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So, it says, continue in the purport, the purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind and to draw it away from attachment to sense objects. It is stressed herein that the mind must be so trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mire of nescience. We've heard that term before, muck and mire. It's like getting stuck in the mud. See, if you run off road in a rainy season, you may get stuck in the mud, and your tires spin. You're trying so hard to get out, but you're just digging yourself in deeper. So Prabhupada is using this word mire of nescience. In other words, the gook, the mud of ignorance that we get caught into. It is stressed herein that the mind must be so trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mire of nescience. As I was saying, we can train our mind to actually be such a good friend that it's actually delivering us. You see, deliver us from, Prabhupada says. He doesn't say to avoid. In the beginning, we're all in that mire of nescience. We're stuck in the mud of the material energy. So now, once we get out, then the mind will keep us, will be avoiding the mire. But in the beginning, it's got to get us out. You see, so we're stuck in it. We were born in the darkness, the muck and mire of nescience, of ignorance. And so, by the mercy of the spiritual master and the assembled devotees and Shastra, we're pulled out. So once we get out, we need to stay out, not get trapped back in that goop. In the material existence, one is subjected to the influence of mind and senses. In fact, the pure soul is entangled in the material world because the mind is involved with the false ego, which desires to lord it over material nature. Therefore, the mind should be trained so that it will not be attracted to the glitter of material nature. And in this way, the conditioned soul may be saved. One should not degrade oneself by attraction to sense objects. Now, to a lot of people, they say, wow, that's too much to ask. I have senses and there are sense objects. And everywhere I look, practically, there's a sense object that appeals to my senses. So we're going to see as we go on in these verses, how becoming Krishna conscious and not only focusing our mind on Krishna, but focusing our mind on our relationship with Krishna as a servant, is bhakti yoga. This is the purpose of yoga, is bhakti yoga. By performing bhakti yoga, which is pure loving devotional service to Krishna, we start to do what we do as an offering to Krishna, an offering of love. That includes thinking what we think, our thoughts, our words, and our actions. We try to use as a service to Guru and Krishna. Now, there are some times that we can't do that. If we're at work, we need to focus on a situation that's right in front of us, and people are depending on us. at work and your families, depending on you at home, to continue to be productive in your job. So if you're offering your job as an offering of love to Guru and Krishna, then you can focus on doing your job, and that's actually devotional service. See? You have to get in that mindset that I'm an accountant, but I'm trying to be the best accountant I am because it's an offering to my Guru and Krishna. See, that's very important. If we do like that, then we can focus, because we can't just sit at work and think of nothing but doing arti to Krishna or abhishek or dressing the deity. We can't do that. We have to focus. If our job is simply to aid us in our sense gratification, then it's just a material arrangement. If our job is something we offer to Guru and Krishna, then it becomes transcendentalized. It becomes, as Prabhupada says, Krishnaized. Prabhupada goes on, the more one is attracted by sense objects, the more one becomes entangled in material existence. The best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. Krishna, I'm doing this for you. Now, if we're doing like that, always meditating like that, then we can see right away, we can't, how can we do nonsense? If we do something nonsensical, how do we offer that to Krishna? So to do nonsense, we have to step out of devotional service. You see? We have to kind of like, we have to depart from our devotional service, do something nonsensical, and then maybe come back, you see? So that's not good. That's not recommended. The best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. The word he is used for emphasizing this point. Example given, one must do this. It is also said, Maneva Manushanam Karanam Mannamokshayo Bandaya Vishayam Sango Mukyai Nirvishayam Manaha. Translation: for man, mind is the cause of bondage, and mind is the cause of liberation. Mind absorbed in sense objects is the cause of bondage, and mind detached from the sense objects is the cause of liberation. That's the Atma Bindu, Amrita Bindu Upanishad, number 2. Therefore, the mind, which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness, is the cause of supreme liberation. So, Prabhupada makes his point very clearly here. We have to always consider, we have to remember our position as Krishna's servant. We have to always remember that position. So if we can do that, then we can always remember that everything that I'm doing is in the position and in the role of the servant of Krishna. See? So therefore, even if we do something that might appear mundane to other people, you see, they may say, well, I'm a dentist and you're a dentist. So how do you say that you're being a dentist is spiritual activity? Because I'm being a dentist for Krishna. I'm offering or being a doctor or a consultant of some kind. Whatever you're doing, let that be an offering to Krishna. Therefore, the mind which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness is the cause of supreme liberation. So, verse 6, before I go into verse 6, is there any discussion or questions? Comments? All right, verse 6. Bandhur atmanas tasya yenat maiva mana chitaha anatmanas tu satruve varte tat maiva satruva. Translation: for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. That we've already discussed. Hardly anybody is able to control their mind because they think that they are their mind. You know, they think, wow, I'm wanting this, I'm wanting that. And we see in the modern day world, I can't help but think about it. People, it's always been this way, but maybe more so now. People can't help but focus on my persona that I present to the world. See, I have to have a certain coif, hair not too long, not too short. I need to fit into a certain crowd, a little bit of stubble on the face, maybe some fashionable tattoos, and maybe even some fashionable body piercings. I don't know if is that still a style? Have body piercings gone out? What do you think, Dr. Chris?
They're still a style, Guru Dave.
They're still in.
Still in. Just
Wait. What are these? Huh? Say?
Amongst sects.
Huh?
I said amongst certain groups.
Yeah. See, all of these things keep flowing. These fads keep flowing through. When people are young, they don't realize that. They think, wow, this is going to be this way forever. Well, no, it doesn't. I've never seen that. There's no indication. It's just like in the 80s. Remember in the 80s, there was these people had this spiked hair. You know, they were using some sort of a gel in their hair and they would spike their hair up, you know, dye it fire engine red, and well, that's gone. There's always some hangers on though. It's like the hippie thing. When it went through, people grew their hairs out and they wore hippie clothes, and then that fades. But there's always a few people that try to hold on to it. You'll see guys that are like in their 70s and they've still got the hair, but although they're pretty much bald on top, they're old men trying to look like hippies. They're still trying to hang on. There's always a few, but most people move on to the next fad. So the day is going to come when all of a sudden tattoos will be not acceptable by the hip crowd. So to have unblemished skin will be hip. And if you have a tattoo, that's like, you're going to be like the old hippie that's trying to keep long hair. You see? I've seen this for over 7 decades. So it's amazing how there's always something going on that people want to identify with, and they accept it as such a reality to them. Hairstyles, you know, because I am my body. And along with that, there's a certain way of thinking, because I am my mind, and I am part of this society, and I am part of this political group. I'm part of this political activist, and so on. This is all from false ego. It's so unfortunate. I'm trying to identify with something that I'm not. It's kind of like children playing. I remember many years ago. My children are all getting old now. But I remember my daughters would play house, and sometimes they would be acting like they're cooking. And they're actually making pancakes out of mud. And then they would come to me, Daddy, would you like a pancake? And they've got this little mud pie, you know. And I'd say, oh, yes, that looks very good. So I knew that they're playing. Even they knew that they were playing. See, so looking at these folks that are trying to be a part of the modern society, whatever it's doing at the present time, whatever it stands for at the present time, whatever the politicians and the business people and whoever are trying to push you in, these ways of molding you and getting you to think, it's like a bunch of kids playing. See, protesters are in the street protesting for this and that. It's like children playing a game. Now, some people's feelings would get hurt if you said that, because they really believe in what they're doing, but this is not the way to solve these things. We need to get people to control their minds. Let's get to the root of the problem. If we feel that there's inequality or unfairness in our society, then we need to purify our minds. Then once we purify our minds, we might have some influence on helping other people purify their minds. And as minds become purified by thinking oneself devotee of God, we'll get enough of a critical mass of purity of mind that it will conquer the world. It doesn't take a whole lot of people. We need enough critical mass of people with, let's make the fad, the next fad that comes, purity of mind. See? Non-violent purity of mind and offering ourselves up to God. Wouldn't that be a nice fad to start? It could change the entire world. These other fads have had some impact, but it's only temporary. It's only temporary. So Prabhupada says in the purport, the purpose of practicing eightfold yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Wow, powerful statement he's making here. The purpose of practicing yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. The human mission is to become aligned with God. That is your mission as a human being. When you're an animal, you don't have any mission. Your mission is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, basically trying to make it without being eaten. You see, there's always, for practically every animal, there's some other animal that's looking to eat it. You see, so it's just the survival of the fittest in the animal kingdom. In the human body, you can actually work on the human mission, which is to reclaim your lost relationship with Krishna. You see, so control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga for show is simply a waste of time. Boy, would that hurt a lot of feelings in today's modern yoga crowd if they heard that. Waste of time. It's a way. Maybe you feel better. You know, you're all stretched out and limber and you feel great physically, but you're not that is not the human mission. It's not the human mission. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and its mission are spoiled. The constitutional position of the living entity is to carry out the order of the superior. Now, right there, we're going to hit a lot of people in the wrong way. People do not want to carry out the order of any superior. I've got to do that at work all day. You see, if I own the business, my name's on the door and it's my business, I've got to carry out the desires and pretty much the orders of my clientele, my customers. Otherwise, they go away and take their money with them. So we don't like this, having to carry out the order of the superior. We're trying to lord it over material nature. So I want to be superior, you see. So a lot of people hear that and they, no. I really do want to. As a matter of fact, people not only feel like they want to be, they feel like they already are superior. I am superior. As Prabhupada says many times, people are even convinced that they're God. As long as one's mind remains an unconquered enemy, it has to serve the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, etc. But when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails meeting Paramatma within the heart and then following his dictation. For one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. It just stands to reason. If we see ourselves as an eternal loving servant of Krishna, that means we've taken to Krishna consciousness. So the surrender to the dictation, because I see myself as your servant, my dear Lord, and out of love, I want to do something to serve you. Now that's surrender in our mind. We've surrendered. Perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. It automatically comes with being a devotee. So there's nothing else that we have to do. We just have to become Krishna conscious. We have to start to practice bhakti yoga and perform all of our activities as an offering to Krishna. Verse 7. Any questions or comments before I go on? Okay. Verse 7, Krishna says, Jitatmanaha prasantasya paramatma samharita sitoshna sukha dukeshu tatamana panam yoho. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. Such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. So, the one who has conquered the mind, once you've conquered the mind, Krishna is saying the super soul is already reached. Why? Because once you conquer the mind and start to see yourself as a servant of Krishna, that gives clear vision to the super soul. You're not being fogged over. Your vision isn't fogged over by the dictates of the material mind. Mind isn't trying to push you this way, push you that way. Prabhupada says in the purport, actually every living entity is intended to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. When the mind is misled by the external illusory energy, one becomes entangled in material activities. When the mind is misled by the external illusory energy, one becomes entangled in material activities. You see? So, therein, we can see the need for controlling this mind. As soon as one, therefore, Prabhupada says, as soon as one's mind is controlled through one of the yoga systems, one should be considered to have already reached the destination. That is the destination, to be servant of Krishna. Once we've controlled our mind and trained it, that it is an eternal servant of Krishna, and this becomes a reflex, then we've achieved the goal. You could actually say that the goal of the human being is to end up practicing bhakti yoga, service to God. And the process to achieving that goal is to practice bhakti yoga. The goal and the destination are the same. They're one and the same. As soon as you start to practice bhakti yoga, you're successful. The trick is to practice it consistently without deviating. You stay on the path. And in some time, it may take years for some, it may take seconds for others, but the mind becomes trained and we become realized that this is our eternal position. You see? If we can fully let go of our attraction, if we can let go of our conviction that this material world is our home and that it is our friend and that it's a source of enjoyment, as long as we're convinced that way, we're going to stay here. You see? We have to become, we were talking about this before we started to record. We have to become convinced that we are part and parcel of Krishna. We have to become convinced that we are eternally Krishna's servant. We have to become convinced. To do that, we have to hear, and we have to associate with Krishna's devotees. We have to find those that are convinced. And through their conviction, we'll become convinced. See? And then it won't be such a struggle to fight with the mind. Convince the mind. You, the soul, the Atma, have to become convinced. Convince your mind that you are a servant of Krishna. When you're doing some activity, you may find yourself thinking, what does this have to do with Krishna consciousness? It's just like I have one neighbor, and I see him from time to time when I'm coming and going. And he's a very friendly fellow, very nice guy, but he likes to talk about, it's like most people. They feel obliged that they have to speak. I could just, as I'm going in and he's coming out, I could just as easily just say, good to see you, hello, and keep on going. But some people feel obliged to talk, and what do they have to talk? Politics. So after you talk to them for a few minutes, they pretty much say everything that they have in their mind. So then the next time you talk to them, it's just the same old regurgitated whatever, complaining about politics, complaining about this, and complaining about all these things. This is so terrible. It's just like a couple of months ago, there's mountains. I live on the side of the Catalina Mountains, and the mountains pretty much across the street from me were on fire. They're all burning down. I mean, it looked extremely close. I took some pictures out right in front of my house, and you could see it's just like right up the street. If those fires, if they come across that ridge, it's going to burn everything down. I was, the county was getting us prepared to have to abandon ship and leave. So every time I saw this neighbor, that's all he wanted to talk about is these fires. And I'm thinking, well, I thought we've already pretty much discussed that. Yeah, fires are there. And you know what? They could head this way. I don't know what else there is to say. Unless, gee whiz, they've come across that ridge and they're going to be here. We need to abandon. You see? So people are like that in the material world. They think that they have to say something. And they may even want to put a little bit of a different twist on it so that what they're saying, although it's mundane and they've repeated it, they've heard it from someone else, but they want to sound a little bit original to it. And you can see the distress that they're in, and their minds are just causing their tongue to speak, speak, speak. And the value of what you get from the conversation, if you're a devotee, the value that you get from them is like nil. There's nothing, no value. So, however, In a scenario when it's two devotees talking, no matter what one devotee says to the other regarding Guru Sadhu Shastra, it's always refreshing. Even if it's just like Radhastami was just here. And how many times have you heard the glories of Radharani? Many, many, many times, right? It's always sweeter and more refreshing. It's always wonderful. John Mastami passes, we always talk about Krishna's appearance. It's always delightful. See? We're always talking about things that Prabhupada said. We're reading his books again and again and again. It's always fresh. You see, it's never like, oh God, this again. You know, it's always sweet and tasteful. Why? Because it appeals to our eternal spiritual nature. And the rest of these things are just temporary material goings and comings, like passing of fads. Simply children playing a game. When the mind is misled by the external illusory energy, one becomes entangled in material activities. Therefore, as soon as one's mind is controlled through one of the yoga systems, one should be considered to have already reached the destination. One has to abide by superior dictation. One has to abide by superior dictation. People don't like to hear that. I want to do my own thing. See? I don't want anybody or anything dictating to me. I want to be the Lord. If I can't be the Lord of the world, then I can't even be the Lord of this nation, nor my state, nor my city. You see? But I want to be the Lord of my house. And I'm going to be the Lord. I'm going to find some friends or people that I can lord it over. And I'll find, if I search hard enough, I'll find someone who will recognize my greatness. Or at least they will convince me that they do, so that they can cheat me out of something. This is the nature of the material mind. And people search all their life for people who see and recognize their greatness. And we notice, I notice as I get older, people my age, very few people, except for the devotees, but of the non-devotees out there, very few people have a lot of friends. I mean, I'm not talking about acquaintances, I'm talking about friends. I mean, if you're in your 70s and you've been making friends all your life, you meet people, become friends with them. Where the heck are they? After all these years, you should have a whole tribe of them. See? It's very rare for the materialist. Why? Because we're competing. Some glorification or enough gratification from you, then you're my friend. So, is the sound okay? I just got a little thing that said my internet connection was unstable.
You went there. I thought it was mine. Right before you were talking about the friends, and then it went out for a second, and then the last thing I heard was the next thing I heard was glorification.
Oh, so okay. It might have been a fluctuation in my internet. I apologize. So, Prabhupada, one's mind is fixed in the superior nature. He has no alternative but to follow the dictation of the Supreme. When one considers himself a servant of Krishna, that means there's no other choice than to, out of love, you want to follow the dictation of the Supreme. The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. This is very difficult for the materialist. It's very difficult. The effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the dictation of the Paramatma, or the super soul. Because this transcendental position is at once achieved by one who is in Krishna consciousness, the devotee of the Lord is unaffected by the dualities of material existence, namely distress and happiness, cold and heat, etc. This state is practical samadhi, or absorption in the supreme. Sometimes people say samadhi means to sit in a secluded place and just be in quiet trance. That's one definition. Prabhupada's talking about practical samadhi. Samadhi means I'm always fixed. I'm entranced that I'm a servant of Krishna. Out of love, we want to serve Guru and Krishna constantly. All of our words, thoughts, and actions are loving offering to Guru and Krishna. So, therefore, that is practical samadhi. It's not just sitting someplace. Therefore, you could be at work and you're in samadhi because the work is performed as a loving offering. So, are there any questions? That wraps it up as far as the reading. Are there any questions or comments or criticism?
Quick
Yes.
comment.
Okay.
So, for someone who's like new to Krishna, I'm asking this because there's a girl who's been coming to the temple, new person. She is an amazing story, Gurudev. I'll have to send you the letter. She wrote a letter to Mother Sandamani explaining how when she was like 13, she became homeless, and she's been through all these horrible things, horrible things like her child died. She's been a heroin addict. And when she was homeless, like the devotees, she ended up getting a copy of Science of Self-Realization. And she was changed her life. And while homeless, she noticed that, she liked the vegetarian food that the devotees for the Food for Life program. I mean, it wasn't a story, but now she's, doing really good, and she's like cleaned up, and she's like really wanting to have God in her life. So she's been coming around the temple, and she asked me a question yesterday at Radhastami. She says, how do I know what's my mind and what's my heart? So the answer I gave her, well, that's why you need a guru, and that's why you have the scriptures, and that's why you have the simple devotees. And, that was the best answer I could give. But then I started pondering that question, because how do we answer that question? How do we know what's our mind and what's the Paramatma? I mean, my answer to her was, that's why we have a guru, and that's why we have the Shastras, and that's why we have the devotees. But, in terms of just like, if you didn't, if you were alone or in any circumstance, how do we know what's our heart?
Well, this is an excellent question. You can tell that she's pondering spiritual values. How do we know? Well, it's just like I may not know the exact terms, but maybe some of you know. But like, if someone is becoming a doctor, when they get out of med school, they become an intern. Is that correct? They go into internship, and so they're working in a hospital. And let's say they're becoming a surgeon, so they start out assisting a surgeon. So they're being trained, and then they may get to where they're doing the operation, but the surgeon is looking over their shoulder, see, until they receive proper training that they don't need anyone looking over their shoulder. Once they've graduated and they've become a qualified surgeon through intense training for a long time, once they've reached that stage, then they're like the chief surgeon. They're doing the operation. And then in time, they're going to be looking over the shoulder of a new intern and teaching that. So our minds are very much like that. In the beginning, we need Guru Sadhu Shastra. We always need Guru Sadhu Shastra. But we need the association of the devotees. We need the Guru to this right, how should I do this? How should I do that? You need the association of qualified sadhus who can tell us how to do this, how to do that, when you're right, when you're wrong. We need constant, daily shastra. We need to read and learn. And so in time, we've trained our mind, and it knows when it's my heart, when it's my mind. People think that their heart is always right. That is insane. That's totally crazy. How many times has your heart told you you think you have fallen in love with somebody, and immediately you're trying your best to make some progress with this person, only to find out that they're a jerk. They're not for you and they're rotten. Well, so where do we get off? What is this? The heart, you know? So my mind, my heart. Well, how do you know that I have a mind which I don't know if it's good, but my heart always tells me true? No, because we're in ignorance. We can't tell. That's just our mind. This heart comes in when we're in love. And I'm not talking about material love. I'm talking about superior love, and that's love of Krishna. When we're in love with Krishna, even if we're in love with Krishna a little bit, that's okay. It'll grow. But a little bit of love of Krishna is so potent. It's like there are certain things, chemical elements that are so potent that if you dropped 1 milligram in a whole reservoir of water, it could kill the whole town. It's that poisonous. So likewise, 1 teeny drop of love for Krishna is so purifying that it helps you see through this illusory energy. It helps you see things, and it helps you, it gets you on the beginning of telling what is your heart. Because I'm starting to love Krishna a little bit, so therefore my heart is in love with Krishna, even if it's a little bit. So now I know what my heart sounds like. My heart is telling me that it loves Krishna. It's very excited to hear about Krishna. It's very excited to talk about Krishna. It's very excited to chant Krishna's names. You see? So we identify what is this heart that we're talking about. That heart that we're talking about is you, the living entity. It's you. You are a lover of Krishna. Period. So when you're thinking like that, out of through love of Krishna, that's your heart talking, which is you. That's your true self that's talking, because your true self is always in love with Krishna, head over heels, sold out in love with Krishna. Most of the time, other than that, when it's our heart, it's just our mind. It's the mind using the senses to focus on sense objects. We see some gain, some gratification, one way or the other. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So basically, what is masquerading as the heart is actually just the mind.
It's
So
just the mind.
just the
Yeah.
mind, taking us in all different directions.
Right. But it's just like if I'm having to watch my diet, I can say that it's my mind that wants to eat 10 gulab jamuns. It's my mind. But it's my heart talking to me if it says that I should go pursue someone for sexual gratification. That's my heart. That's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. No, it's just your mind, and it's operating. It's acting through lust, just like it's lusting after the glowworms. So now you've got the mind through the senses, focusing on other sense objects, and one of them I interpret as being my mind, one I interpret as being my heart. And we can tell through our lives so many times our heart has told us certain things and they turned out to be completely wrong. When your heart talks to you, and I mean you, your soul, when you're actually thinking as a lover of Krishna, it's telling you the truth. It's never going to let you down. But when your mind is working on you through the senses, on the sense objects, it's never true to you. You're always being cheated by the mind when you're getting away from your consciousness of being a lover of Krishna. The mind is cheating. You're coming under the influence of the material elements. This is the most important thing that we have to learn, is that it's like if the world outside was all radioactive. Let's say there was some bomb or something, radioactive fallout outside. And they're telling you on the news, as soon as you go outside, you're going to become radioactive and it'll start to kill you. Don't go outside without wearing a special suit. You see? Well, you're going to fall into that right away and say, well, I'm going to go outside. And it's just like, at least many people are wise enough to wear a mask when they go out nowadays. Because we're told, gee whiz, you need a mask. If everyone wears a mask, we'll protect each other. So wearing a mask is a good idea. Now, some people say, I don't want to wear a mask. I don't have to do this. Am I right? Okay, whatever. But once we become aware the environment out there is contaminating, and it's contaminating when? Always. Then we have to learn how to navigate through this contaminating environment, the material energy, in such a way as to not become contaminated by it. So it's just like if everything outside was radioactive, we would always wear some preventative suit so that we wouldn't inhale the air or get it on our skin or like that, you see. So the devotee, we have to put on our protective gear of Mahamantra and focusing on the fact that I am part and parcel of Krishna, and my mission is to serve Krishna. My mission is to serve Guru and Krishna, regardless of where I'm doing. I start to be influenced by people around me, situations around me. I'll see someone that has a really cool tattoo, and I'll think, I need to get one even cooler than that. See? Or I'll think, wow, look at the way he's got his hair. I'm so impressed by it. I need to do like that. Why am I shaving my head? That's not in style. I need to get some nice growth, and I'll do this thing with it that he's doing. A piercing here, a tattoo here. See? So I might be walking down the street chanting Hare Krishna and see someone pass me that has some really hip tattoo. And immediately I'm starting to think, I think I want to do. So what happened? I just stepped into the material energy. You see? I am my body and I want to decorate it. So it can happen even to the devotee. It happens. We always have to be on guard. And we have to have a realization that this material world is not my home. I'm not part of this. My body might, but I am not this. I am in a hazardous environment. As long as you're embodied and you're in this material world, you are in a hazardous environment. It is not favorable to your consciousness at all. At all. You have to maintain your Krishna consciousness, and then you can have some effect or some influence on the world around you. Either you influence the world around you, or it will influence you. Does that answer your question? Did that answer your question, Mother?
Yes, I think very clearly that really it's about controlling the mind and bringing it to Krishna's lotus feet, and then trying all the time, because the mind goes all over the place and doesn't really obey us because it's been doing that for millions of lifetimes. It's not so easy to control the mind. It's very, very difficult.
Very. It takes constant practice. And the mind may start to slip away once in a while. It's like when I'm in India, I notice in Mayapur, there are many people who drive their livestock down the street, herd of cows or water buffaloes or something like that, goats sometimes. And so you've got a guy, the herd is going down the street, and there's a little guy behind, and he's got a stick. And so if one of the cows starts to go off the path and maybe into the field, he gives us a light tap. Sometimes he just hits it against the ground. He taps the ground, and they get back in line. So there is that tendency to wander here and wander there. That's okay. We just need to train ourselves to kind of get back in the groove. It's like when you're driving, when I'm on the road, traveling down the freeway, 80 miles an hour, going from one place to another, out in the middle of nowhere. Put it on cruise control, and now all I have to do is keep it from going into the ditch. See, it's like when I get out in West Texas, when I'm going from El Paso to San Antonio, get out there outside of El Paso County, and from there all the way, practically it's 80 miles an hour, and many people go faster than that. So you can set the cruise control at 85, and all you have to do, because there's nobody out there, is steer it this way or that way to keep it from going off the road. That's all you have to do. And so, if my van starts to move over a little bit, I just steer it back. If it starts to go this way, I steer it back. So when I'm driving, that's a constant activity. A little left, a little right, a little left, a little right. When you get in amongst other traffic, then you have to go a little slower, a little faster, a little left, a little right, a little slow, a little fast. You see? So it's like that as we navigate this material world. I have to constantly be steering my mind. Little here, little there. That's okay. But if I wasn't aware of the danger of running off the road into a ditch at 85 miles an hour, then I would wreck. I'd be dead, you see. So we have to be aware of the danger in this material world. We're in a contaminated environment. And unless we use this material world, unless we engage it in the service of Krishna and use it in our service to Krishna, then it will contaminate us. It will have a negative influence. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. And thank you to all the assembled Vaishnavas. I would like to excuse myself. I have to go now. But
Okay.
I'll see you again soon, giving us your valuable knowledge and wisdom because we need it.
It was a delightful pleasure to see you again, Mother.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
I see Aaron Mason has joined us. It's so good to see your name up there. I don't see your delightful face, but I see your name.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Hey, there she
Hello.
is. Aaron Mason from Dallas, Texas.
Hello. Yeah, I got on late, I think. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. We forgive you.
Thank you.
Things are well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're going good.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're happy and healthy?
Yes. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Definitely.
If you can maintain that in this day and age, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Throw in a little thought of Krishna once in a while and you're on top of the world.
I definitely. I was listening to what you were just saying, and a lot of times, I think, what do we spend our time thinking of? For me, it's a lot of times I catch myself thinking of either the past or worrying about what will happen tomorrow, right?
Right.
Um,
Thinking about the past is
mhm.
like going down the road. Like I was saying, you're going down the road on the freeway, 85 miles an hour, looking in the rearview mirror. You're going to run off the road, you see. And if you're going down the road and you're looking way on the horizon, you may run into something in front of you, you see. So there is something to be said for being in the now moment. I'm here and it's here and now for me. What does that mean? I know that I'm on a mission to serve my Guru and Krishna. And right this very minute, I'm doing that by giving this class, or by cooking this meal, or by reading this book, or by talking to this person, you see. So that's being in the now moment, but staying out of the past. You can't do that because a lot, more than you realize, of what you're thinking about when you're dwelling in the past is something that you've cooked up in your mind. You may take something that somebody has done in the past. Maybe they've cheated you or hurt you in some way. And when you replay that, it's like you add some drama to it. See? You make it worse than it really was. And that's not healthy. It's not useful. And you know what? You can't have the past. It's gone. Time has eaten it. So it's just some memory that's not even dependable. I mean, when you get older, you'll find yourself getting in amongst. I remember a few years ago, I was around some people that I knew before I was a devotee. And we were talking about some adventures that we'd had before I became a devotee, when we were younger. And I realized that their recollection of what happened was entirely different than mine. And I was saying, no, it wasn't like that. No, he was driving, and no, you weren't. And no, she was dancing with him, not with you. And it's just like, and people start to argue. No, and you think, well, I remember it as this. How do I know I'm right? Is it that all these guys are wrong and you see? So it's it can be based on fact, but it can be drama, fictitious. So you don't need to go there. If you want to go to the past, think, what did I learn from that? I was I made a commitment to someone that I was going to be faithful to them. What did I learn from that? I learned that type of person is not trustworthy. Not thinking what that person did to me was so mean. No, I learned that that kind of person is not a trustworthy companion. You know? And now here I am today, knowing that. You see? And the pain that was caused is gone. Now I can try to relive it. I can try to revive that pain and suffer it again. Why would I want to do that? It's really gone. Eternal time has eaten it. You can't touch it. You can't smell it. You can't see it. Only picture it in your mind. And depending on your mood, it may be better or worse than it was when it actually happened. So what did that experience do for you? You know? Get that. Take that advantage. I learned this, and then go forward. So yeah, we have to, especially in times like this when we spend more time at home, and many of us spend more time at home alone. So the mind starts walking away, thinking about what somebody said. Wonder what they were thinking. I know what that guy meant when he said this. And I know what.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not our nature as loving part and parcels of Krishna. You know?
Yeah.
Our nature is to feel bliss, happiness. So anything that steals us away from our true nature is an enemy. And the enemy is illusion, lack of knowledge. Once we get in knowledge, then we see lack of knowledge as the enemy. We avoid it. It's contaminating. As I said, it's a toxic environment. Going back and thinking about things that happened in the past, toxic environment. All right. Okay, we've been going for, I guess, a little over an hour. Does anybody have anything else? Any questions or comments?
Bro, I had a small question.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a small answer.
Sure. Bro, I was wondering, like you were saying just now, that how the mind, it's kind of goes off track and we have to bring it back on track.
Yeah.
Like we usually see, like even when it is in a very stable situation in like Krishna consciousness, and in a very proper spirit, but then all of a sudden we face a situation, and we know that there's a right step to take, like maybe in anger, or when we want something, or in any kind of situation where that the mind has some sort of effect on us, even though we know we shouldn't do it, but we still end up doing it. And then we realize we knew it was wrong, and then like we realized more that it was not the right step at that time. It was not something that would have pleased Guru and Krishna. So how can we bring the mind out of that, and get it to focus further, like further on the path now?
Well, we have to ask ourselves this question. Our mind is starting to do something, and like you said, we know we shouldn't do it. So my mind is wanting to do this. I know I shouldn't do that, but yet I'm starting to do it anyway. So I'm giving in to my mind. So we have to train ourselves to know when to say no to our mind. It's like if you have a child that wants to eat chocolate cake before dinner, you may say, no, you can't have that. The child says, but I want it. And you say, all right, you can have a little bit, and then the child eats the whole thing, wrecks their dinner. You see, so how do we overcome that? This is a similar scenario to what you're talking about. The mind wants to do something, it's wrong. And you're thinking, I don't want to, but okay, but I don't want, no, we shouldn't, but okay. So how would you do that with a child? You sometimes just have to say, no, no, you can't. But I'll tell you what, if you'll wait until after dinner to have the chocolate cake, I'll give you a scoop of ice cream on it. So you negotiate with the child, you know? I'm going to go to the store and you can go with me and you can pick out whatever you want. You see, if you will do what I want you to do. So sometimes we have to do that with our minds. We have to say to our mind, look, no, and I know that you want to do this, and I know that we shouldn't do this, but my dear mind, if you'll leave me alone and work with me here, we'll do something else. Later on. You compromise a little bit, negotiate. So sometimes we have to do that with ourselves. Can't do this, but you can do that. Like raising a child. Does that make any sense?
Yes, bro. And then on the same terms, could we say that if we do this, like if we follow the dictation of the super soul, not of the mind, like, and that eventually doing that over and over leads to the mind becoming like a permanent friend for us.
Yeah, the mind will start to give over to the desires of the super soul because the mind is identified with being a servant of Krishna. So the mind will start to think, I want this. Oh, but wait a minute. Super soul, what do you want? Do I have your approval? It's like Prabhupada said, we'll in the purport, we will we'll go along with the dictates of the super soul. We'll become under the control of super soul. See, that's part of this purificatory process of practicing bhakti yoga. Well, wonder, my dear mind, your mind is starting to desire, but then it's like, okay, I want this, but gee whiz, Krishna, what do you want? Because after all, I am your servant. Does that make any sense?
Yes, bro. Thank you so much.
Good question. What else? Anybody else?
You want to have a class, Prabhu?
Tomorrow? Krishna Cove? Yeah, that's my plan. Forward to it. I'll get you a title very soon. All right, I'm going to sign off, my dear friends. I love you all dearly, and it's a pleasure seeing you. And
Hare Krishna,
we'll
Prabhu.
talk again. Hare Krishna, Gorgadadhar Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the nice
All
class.
glories to your service to Guru and Krishna. Hare
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. How are you, Hari Priya?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Oh, there you are. There's the beautiful Hari Priya.
Thank you.
Are you happy?
Yeah.
You look happy.
Please, you come fast in my house.
I come to your house in November.
Okay.
Great,
Yeah.
Prabhu. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to being in Knoxville in November. So I'll see you then.
We are waiting for you.
Will you cook for me when I get there?
Yeah.
Good. I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.